Good day, grade 11 learners. Once again, I'm your teacher, Ma'am M. Magdadaro, and welcome to our fourth learning episode in Earth Science Grade 11. Isn't it fulfilling to know that you are now in a fourth week of learning your lessons? So join me today as we're going to explore the different energy resources and their respective processes. What are fossil fuels? Fossil fuels are natural resources that are formed in the geological past from the remains of living organisms. So these are formed from the decomposition of the buried dead organisms. What are the different types of fossil fuels? Now, as you see, we have the coal, the oil, and the natural gas. So how is coal formed? Coal is made up, or it's composed of the different elements of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and sulfur. So there are three types of coal. The first one is the anthracite, which is composed of more carbon. That is why it is the hardest among the three. The second one is the lignite, which is also called as the softest because it's low in carbon but with high component of hydrogen and oxygen. And the last one is bituminous, which is not too hard and not too soft. It's just in between the anthracite and the lignite. There are stages of coal formation which will eventually also form the different types of coal. The first one is peat. Peat is formed once the organisms or the dead living organisms are decomposed. So they are described as soft and spongy substance and must be dry before use. The next one is lignite. So lignite is formed once this peat, okay, the first stage, the peat is compressed between sedimentary layers. So it formed now lignite. And lignite is subjected to increased vertical pressure from accumulating sediments. And it crumbles with no trouble and should not be sheathed or handled before use. And next is the bituminous. So bituminous coal is formed once there is further compression of the lignite over a long period of time. And then the anthracite, this is known as the hard coal because it is hard and has high luster. The next fossil fuel is the oil. The oil is formed more than 300 million years ago, and commonly it is produced in the countries of Russia, Saudi Arabia, United States, Iran, and China. So oil has been used for more than 5,000 to 6,000 years ago already. How is it formed? We have these tiny marine plants and organisms that are dead and buried for a long period of time. And once they're buried underneath the sea, they are covered with this silt and sand for so many years, and they are compressed. And because of the heat and the pressure that they experience underneath, they will eventually turn to natural gas and oil at the same time. Another fossil fuel is the natural gas. So what do you know about natural gas? Natural gas is lighter than the air, and it's first discovered in Iran and mostly made up of methane, which is a simple chemical compound that is made up of carbon and hydrogen atoms. Usually, natural gas is found in petroleum underground, and they are pumped from below ground and travels into pipelines to storage areas. And it has no odor, and also we cannot see it. Now, how are they formed? As also mentioned, their formation is the same with the formation of the oil. So because of these marine organisms that are dead and decomposed for a long period of time, and they're compressed, and because of heat and pressure, they are converted. The remains of these marine organisms are converted into natural gas. So somewhere between 6,000 to 2,000 years BC, the first discoveries of natural gas was made in Iran as mentioned, and the gas seeps probably first ignited by lightning and provided fuel for the eternal fires on the fire-worshipping religion of the ancient Persians. So that was the first discovery of natural gas. What are the refineries and why are they important to the production of fossil fuel? An oil refinery or petroleum refinery is an industrial process where oil is processed and refined into more useful petroleum products. So this oil that we take out or that they take it from the sea, okay, underneath the sea, will be processed and be refined in order to be used as our gasoline, the diesel fuel, the asphalt base, the heating oil, the kerosene, and the liquefied petroleum gas. So once they are refined already, they can be readily used for the consumption of humans. Fossil fuel is one of our major energy sources. Okay, they are being used in our day-to-day life, and we see its significance once we see what we have around. But the overconsumption of it will lead to serious environmental issues, just like air pollution. So when there is like burning of this fossil fuel, we know that there are some consequences that will also lead to some serious problems. So the first one is the first major disadvantage of the fossil fuel is the environmental hazards. Once the fossil fuel is burned, it releases this gas called carbon dioxide, okay, and will cause this what we call global warming. We know that global warming is one of the environmental conditions that if it continues over time, the earth might face a major problem. Next is the acid rain. So aside from the carbon dioxide that is released during the burning of fossil fuel, it also released sulfur dioxide, which is one of the pollutants that is being released during this burning process. And this is also a gas component that will cause acid rain. And also it has an effect on our human health because of the pollution of the different vehicles that we have around us. And the last one is its impact on the aquatic life through oil spill. Now, another energy source is the heat. So in lesson 8, we are going to focus on how this heat, which is from the underneath of the earth, we call it geothermal, will be converted as a source of energy. So what do you know about heat? Why do we have this type of energy that is described as dynamic? Dynamic in a sense that heat is a product of random motion of particles that are continuously colliding and vibrating. So once we have this already, now we have already this transferable and convertible form of energy. So we're talking about geothermal energy. So geothermal energy is the heat generated beneath the ground, okay, underneath the earth, that when harnessed can generate electrical energy for community use. So this is possible when geothermal power plant is established and equipped with technology that could run the process of energy conservation. Now, what do you observe from these pictures? So in picture number 1, it's shown here the hot spring, which is a part of Mount Hingel in Iceland, with a total area of 100 square meter or kilometer. This is extremely popular site for hikers and hot spring enthusiasts. So I want you to jot down what you observe in the picture. The next picture I'm showing you is the fumarole. This can be found around Motlovsky volcano in Russia, and the site normally emits carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, hydrogen chloride, and hydrogen sulfide. So I want you to write what you observed on these two pictures. Another pictures I'm showing you are the pictures of volcano and the geyser. So volcano is another landform which is famous in Luzon, particularly in Batangas. Taal volcano, which is one of the most active caldera volcanoes in the country and in the world. So it's recently erupted last January 12, 2020. Another picture is the geyser. This is the famous geyser. It's called the Great Geyser in Iceland. And the word geyser originates from the Icelandic verb, which is gyosa, meaning to gush. Now, these geothermal reservoirs are the rising hot water and steam. Now, as you can see in those pictures I've shown you, there is a rising of hot water because they are topped in permeable and porous rock to form a geothermal reservoir. And this can be discovered by when you test the soil and you analyze underground temperature. So the instruction uses the heat energy can be brought to Earth's surface by following ways, like directly from hot springs or geysers. And the other one is using geothermal heat pump. And uses are broadly classified as direct use or indirect use. So this is the typical geothermal power plant. So any power plant, regardless of what they fueled, whether it's coal, gas, nuclear power, or geothermal energy, they have this common feature. So as you can see in the picture, in a geothermal power plant, they have this the drilling water or the steam wells, and we have the steam, we have the turbine generator, and then it produces the electricity, and then it has also a cooling tower and another injection well where water also goes back to where it came from. Now, how does a geothermal power plant work? Now, from the word geothermal, we know that geo comes from the earth and thermal means heat. So we use the heat that comes from underneath the earth. So geothermal power plant use steam to produce energy. So they have this steam that comes from the reservoir. And the steam comes from the reservoir. The steam comes from the reservoir of hot water found a few miles and more below the Earth's surface. And then the steam that is produced out of it will be rotating a turbine. And once this rotates already, the turbine rotates, it will actually activate the generator. And once this generator works, now it already releases this form of electrical energy, which we already consume and use in our different homes. Its indirect use is for electricity generation, just like what we have explained a while ago. It's an indirect use of geothermal energy. And there are three types of power plants that we have to discuss one by one. The first one is the dry steam power plant. Next is a flash steam power plant. And the last one is the binary cycle. So I'm leaving you homework in order for you to really reflect on the importance or the significance of our lesson for this week. I want you to think of some ways on how you can conserve energy as grade 11 student. That because in your simple ways at home, we know that by reducing energy, it will also limit the emission of these harmful gases that can really create harmful effect to our environment. So in turn, once we start it within ourselves, then we could also contribute, and it will create also great impact to having a higher quality life. So reducing emission can also result to cleaner quality air that we can breathe, and it will create as a whole healthier planet for all of us to also save the next generation that will still benefit from our actions today. So I hope you are learning from our lesson and you will honestly do your homework for the week. So I'll see you all in our next learning episode.